Well, it all started way back. Boy, I got to think probably 8 years ago or so. We got an opportunity to be in a cooperative program with BYU Idaho and some of their student teaching students. And so where they would supply us with student teachers and we would provide them with teaching experience, preparing them for their first year. Well, we weren't the only school, nor were we the only district. And part of the program was to get to visit one another's schools. So part of the program was down in Mesa, Arizona. And we got an opportunity to visit a school named Zaharis Elementary. And we have formed quite a relationship with the folks down there.
I think what I learned the most was just how much they love and value good literature. Reading and writing was super important to them and their students. What did you think about that egg when you saw it?
Delicious.
It was delicious. That's an excellent word. So sound out the word delicious and then tell me what you did because it was so delicious. What were you going to do?
So what we saw down there were students doing, in this language-enriched environment, doing things that we had never seen students at that age do before, as far as their reading and their writing, particularly their writing.
I like the zoo. The zoo has animals. I like the fish the best.
And so I wanted to be able to have our school do something similar. So what I did was I proposed some professional development to the district. We ponied up a bunch of money. They helped supplement that. And we've been taking some teams of teachers down each year to Zaharis Elementary and have really developed kind of a sister school relationship with Zaharis.
My biggest takeaway was just the love that the kids had for reading and even for writing. Just these, 6 and 7-year-olds that just really enjoyed pulling out a book and talking to their teacher about what they were reading and then writing about the things that they were reading.
It's really not so much a curriculum. It's not a program that they have down there. It's more of a culture, a climate. It's just a focus that they have. You can see it's pervasive throughout their school. Student samples of writing hanging everywhere on the walls. In the principal's office himself, and he's an author himself. Nothing but books. You can't see the walls because he puts up these rain gutters, vinyl rain gutters on his walls, and stacks children's books in them. His desk is just a mess, just filled with children's books, and he can tell you about every single one of them. So one of the important components to what we saw was this wasn't just do as I say, not as I do, but they are leading by example. And so we have really tried to incorporate that at Discovery as well.
When I came back from Zaharis, I kind of threw out the whole basal because I wanted the kids to not read just 2 or 3 pages of a chapter book, but to read the whole chapter book and be able to know from beginning to end how it goes, to not only be able to read it, but to be able to write something like that if in their future they wanted to be an author.
So because teachers are sharing what they're reading, what they're writing, and talking about the authors, and they're doing a ton of read alouds in the classroom, so students are engaged. I mean, you would think they're watching a movie. They're so enthralled and so focused when the teacher's up there reading. And then they break periodically to talk about authors, talk about the characters in the book that they're reading, comparing and contrasting them to other books that they're reading. Because kids are reading multiple books at a time, just like the teachers are.
So they tied their shoelaces to each other's. They were doing a big train thing, and Judy stepped on his foot, and then he got hurt.
Oh, can you make a connection to this story with maybe another book that you've read or maybe something that has happened to you?
I remember growing up and a teacher giving a creative writing assignment and sitting there not knowing how to start, not knowing where to start, and just wasting time in the process. These kids don't do that because they're so accustomed to writing. They're writing in journals every day. They're writing about their books every day. They're sharing verbally about their books every day.
A shelter, and we are going to the fire station.
those professional development opportunities I think are very important. And being able to put and invest in teachers the way that we have, I think means a lot, is valued a lot. And when they got an opportunity to see what they were doing at Zaharis Elementary, they came back energized, excited, seeing students doing things that they hadn't expected or I guess thought that our students at that age were capable of doing. But they are. Our students aren't any different than the students down in Arizona. You know, they're kids. And they're capable of so much more maybe than what we have been doing in the past.
I think that's super important because the kids pick up on your excitement for the books. They pick up on if you don't like the book or if you don't like reading. They can tell through what you do. And so picking books that you're excited about gets them excited about it.
So the huge reward, I think, and for me as a principal, is being able to step into a classroom and watch that engagement, student-driven discussion at a deeper level. So the insight that students have is incredible if we just kind of tease that out of them by creating the environment for them to be successful that way.
We call it the zone. We call it when you're in the typing zone and you're just able to let it flow so well. You can add description and you can say, oh yeah, I remember this, and then you can add something that you think is funny, and then you can just basically change up your story at any time because that's how it's supposed to be and that's how we learned how to make it, so we can change it at any time.
Yeah, it's not a program, it's not a curriculum, but there are some key components that have to be done, I think, in order to see this kind of progress and this kind of engagement. In reading, for example, read alouds, critical. Students have to look forward to reading. And if it takes the teacher reading for them initially, that's what it takes. And seeing that modeling so that teachers are sharing what they're reading at home, professionally, to the class, and talking about the characters and those kinds of things that I've mentioned. Students start to get a deeper understanding and I think a deeper love. So we had, just like the rest of the district, done accelerated reader for years. And they got their token rewards and all that kind of stuff. And the kids would work for the rewards, most of them. But we didn't see a love for reading. It was mostly about getting that reward. The reward in this is reading itself. It's the enjoyment of reading and writing. They're proud of what they've written. They want to share what they have written, not with just the teacher, with their families, but with their peers. So one of the critical components also to this whole process is making sure that it's a safe environment for students to read and to get constructive feedback from their peers and from their teachers.
All of our subjects are linked. So when we're reading, we just read the book of Watson's Go to Birmingham. We wrote an essay, a persuasive essay on why LBJ signed the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And then we studied civil rights and history. And so all of this links together, and so they get a really good background on what we're studying and we're talking about. And then we use that writing in every single subject. So in reading, they are writing short essay responses. In writing, they're writing some form of an essay that we're researching, and we're talking about how to properly write an essay, how to organize proper sentence structure, things like that. And then in social studies, it's the same thing. We're reading nonfiction text, and we are using those standards through there, and we're writing about that as well. So we're writing and reading throughout every single subject just to really drive all of those points home and have them prepared when they go to middle school and high school and college.
So one of the components as well is making sure that they have one-on-one conferences with teachers so that they get specific feedback of something to work on. So what many of our teachers have done is utilized a little notebook that kids carry around with them. And they get what's called a golden ticket. And that's just nothing but a little sticky tab that students can put in their books when they've mastered a component. And another color when they have something to work on. When I was down at Zaharis, a little first grader was so excited that we were there to visit. And he wanted to share with me so badly that he just kind of pushed kids aside to show me his little book. And this is what I've done, and this is what I'm working on. Our kids are starting to do that too. it's exciting to see that kind of engagement.
One of the things that I brought back was writing-based projects, and those writing-based projects were seen all over the school walls and in the classroom. For me, that was super exciting because I remember doing those types of projects, something that culminated with everything that I learned in something that I could keep and that was memorable to me. And so that's what I focused on or brought back for me this year. So we've done a lot of those type of writing-based projects here in our classroom where we take a story and we may read that story 3 and 4 times, looking at different things throughout the story. Sometimes we're looking for characterization, sometimes we're looking for point of view, sometimes we're looking at the vocabulary. And then the students are able to respond to those things and put that information down into a really neat project.
Students are learning to compare and contrast. Not that we haven't done that all the time, but it's just that driven discussion that's generated by students, not necessarily driven by the teacher. So they're comparing and contrasting characters and stories, authors and their writing style, voice in their writing, all these different kinds of components and many, many more.
Kids just, they feel invested. They feel like it's theirs. Each kid has a chance to be a club captain. So they're in charge that day of the group, and they can decide kind of how things roll. Are we going to read together? Are we going to, which question are we going to talk about and discuss for tonight's homework? And then they can they also have to answer, how did your team work together? How did your team work with each other, and what were some drawbacks, what were some hard things you guys had to deal with? And it really just teaches them how to interact for future real world things.
They're writing every single day, whether it's a journal entry, whether it's a creative writing assignment, whether it's a factual writing assignment like an Idaho history program paper or something. They're always writing, and cross-curricular. So even if it's a science lesson, they're not only reading, but they're also writing about that, and writing in complete sentences and thoughts. That's an important piece. And I really think that building those writing skills has what is probably the only thing that probably sets us apart maybe from other schools sometimes, is that I think that the emphasis that we have put on writing has really allowed our students to take what's already up here and what they've been taught and put it into a test form. And to be successful putting your thoughts down on paper.
Okay, so what I would do is get another piece of paper. Maybe where you want to add something, put a little star, and then go to your new paper and write a little star that matches that star, and you can add in what you forgot.
So a lot of times we teach at the grade level, well, this is your grade level, so this is what we've got to keep you in. We're stretching them. We don't want to frustrate them, but we're always reading to them, we're always encourage them a little step up. You know, so that they're always kind of reaching forward. And I think that that's an important component as well. So not a huge emphasis on the punctuation and spelling at this initial stage. At the initial stage, it's more about getting that thought out and then developing those thoughts and enriching the language within those thoughts. Okay, then we can kind of wordsmith things. Then we can kind of work on the grammar and the grammatical issues and those kinds of things. But initially, we just want kids to get out what's up here. Let's let those creative juices
Once
flow.
they crack out of the head and they wiggle out of their exoskeleton, it's like they just are born again into new skin. They just have new skin. And so then they start that process over again.
Kids love it. It makes it fun. You know, instead of getting something back all ripped up and red with misspelled words or this, that, or whatever else, it's really about encouraging, I love your thought process here. Let's expand it by going in this direction. Or did you think about this? You know, have you thought about that? And just kind of getting those that creative mindset rolling. Because kids got it. Kids are the most creative things in the world, I think. It's just being able to let them get that or help them get that onto paper.
And the kids really, tell them what you think about reading in this class, reading and writing.
Boy, we have seen a real steady increase over the past several years of students being able to perform better on tests, not just in writing, not just in reading, but across curriculum, because they're able to take what's here and put it down here. And that's, I think, the piece that has been lacking because I think we have great teachers in this district, and they work their tails off. But if we're not teaching kids and spending the time on how to write, it's like setting up a classroom and diving right into the curriculum without classroom management. And then you're fighting that the whole time. If we're not teaching the writing skills and developing a love for that, we're going to be fighting that piece because they can't get it from here down to here as well. And so they're choppy, short answers kind of thing. And on the ISATs, it's key to be able to write and explain your explanation or your answer.